This is Marriage on the Half Shell, Raw and Exposed. Well, I know we said that we were going to do some podcasts on the Gottman book,
Yep.
right?
The principles.
The principles.
For a good marriage.
Yeah, 7 principles for a good marriage. And we are going to get to that. But there's another topic we wanted to discuss tonight. It's something that's kind of been in the social media sphere over the last 2-3 weeks, I guess. Actually, it's been out there longer than that, but there's been more emphasis on it in the past few weeks.
Couple weeks. Okay.
Yeah. There's some debate out there about duties. Like what are our duties, right?
Yeah.
And it actually came up on, well, I'm not going to say the name of the show because it's stupid, don't look it up. But there was a man and a woman, and there was a man and a woman, and they were having a discussion about what are a man's duties and what are a woman's duties. And the panel was very emphatic that men have duties and they better do them. Right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay, we'll get to
Well,
those.
okay. But when it came to the question, there was one of the gentlemen on the panel who was like, okay, well, what are the wife's duties then? And feminists erupted and, like, how dare you ask that? And, we don't have duties, and what's the question? What are you bringing to the table?
This is the thing I've seen over and over again. It's like, what do you bring to the table? And the young ladies, at least, are saying, well, I am the table.
Right.
Which is not true.
No.
So, they should be bringing something.
Yes. Yeah. They see, on the one hand, these feminists, they want to go around and cry about how a marriage is supposed to be 50-50.
Yep.
Which is not true. That's a big lie.
Oh, we'll get to that.
But, well, we can discuss that if you want to. But if you ask them, okay, if you say to the man, you're bringing 50%, and then you look at the woman and say, okay, where's your 50%? And they go, oh, no, I don't do that.
Well, they say, I'm bringing myself.
Yes.
A man, they'll say, a man should spend $200 or $300 on me.
Yes.
To go out to dinner.
Right.
And the interviewer will say, well, what does the man get? And the woman, the young ladies, anyway, will say, well, me, my presence.
Yes.
My presence.
Yes.
I mean, not even going home afterwards to,
Well, which they should be doing.
Sometimes they do. Yeah, we're not saying they should be doing, but sometimes they do.
Yeah.
If the guy is hot enough.
Sure.
But in general, the implication is you should
be grateful that I'm sitting here with you.
In front of you.
Yes.
And guys are going, what? No.
I see. But I mean, we've had discussions before about how the marriage rates are plummeting. Young men are having a hard time dating. Young ladies, they've got these outrageous expectations. And so I think what we want to do tonight is, okay, ladies, you're wrong. Young ladies, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Yeah. You have duties. You were given gifts from God that you are supposed to share with a man and with the world. That is the way we are all wired. And you cannot sit on your butt and say, my presence is enough. It's not. I'm telling you right now, it's not.
As if you're a god.
Yes.
It's like, no.
So, I mean, we're going to talk about the man's duties as well.
Sure.
But I've heard this now multiple times from multiple women that I thought were not feminists, but apparently they are. And they all have this, they have this...
Entitlement?
Entitlement, arrogance. The arrogant attitude that's like, the world owes me something because I'm a woman, but I shouldn't have to pony up anything.
No reciprocation.
No reciprocation, right?
Men owe us
because they
blah,
were
blah,
patriarchal for thousands of years, and now it's our turn, and blah, 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 blah. And all you have to do is go out to Go out and just encounter the dating scene right now, and you're going to see exactly what that attitude is doing to everyone involved.
Well, I mean, from what I can tell, men are just fed up with it.
They're checking out.
They want what men want. Most of them, we're going to leave out the outliers, the few guys here and there that I would say the feminists have used as examples of bad guys who you don't want. And yeah, we would agree, right?
Right.
So we're talking about the majority of men who just want to marry a good woman who loves them and wants to raise a family if they both agree.
Yeah.
Right? And so on. And be loyal to each other and all of that. And make a life together. That's what a lot of guys want.
Right.
And there are some, I think, that are being hurt. And this is not really what we're going to talk about tonight, but they're being hurt to the point where they have given up. And that's one, or they've been hurt to the point where they're actually starting to take on those negative views of women.
Yes.
Right? So, young ladies, by the way you treat a man, if you mess with him and so on, like what's going on out there in the dating field, you will change how they deal with women in the future.
Yes.
And I don't think it's a positive thing.
No, it's not.
But men, you should understand that there are women out there who will do something like this, and you need to learn how to deal with it, and then not let it become your identity.
Right.
And look, I'll agree that this goes both ways.
Right.
Certainly, I think men can mess with women and ruin them, in a sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
And maybe that's just this circular thing that's going on. So hopefully we can stop that eventually as we move forward. But I think a lot of men just they understand what's going on, and they're like, they're not finding the woman that they want to marry. Right? They recognize that there's something going on. They don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like the drama, the fighting, the tests, all that stuff. And they're just saying, forget it. Right? And I don't think they should give up. It's just difficult to find someone who's been raised right. And these are men who may not necessarily have been raised right themselves, but they learned.
Right.
And you women can learn too.
Right.
So, anyway.
Well,
all that to get back to your point.
Okay, so here's my point. Women can go around with their noses in the air and say that I'm just bringing myself and I don't have duties. Like the woman that was in this interview that I talked about a few minutes ago, she was like, no, I just bring myself. It's inherent in a man's nature to want to protect and provide, so he should just do that.
And that's true.
It is true.
Sure.
I mean, that is true of a healthy, masculine man who's been raised correctly. He's going to have this natural desire to protect and provide for his family. Yes. That is true. There are far too many effeminate men out there who have given up on that, and they just call themselves feminists, and they don't.
Well, they're just they're taking the wrong path to try to get a woman.
Yes. Yeah.
But, and everybody, the whole toxic masculinity crap that's out there is just crap.
So anyway, so ladies, we do have duties.
We'll get to the husband's duties.
Okay, yes, we do have duties.
This is a marriage. We're talking about marriage, but
yes,
as you begin to date, some of these will apply, and then once you get married, then all of them will apply.
Right.
But go ahead.
Right. So should I start with this because this is funny?
Sure. Do the.
All right. So we'll start with something funny. This was circulating. When did you look it up? Like the late 90s,
something like that.
Right. Okay. Most of you ladies probably saw it. It's called The Good Wife's Guide, and it's supposed to be from this housekeeping monthly magazine in 1955. Now, I saw this thing circulating. I read it, and I listen. I agree with most of it. I gotta be honest.
I thought
some of it's really funny and some of it's really over the top, but I also agree with a lot of it.
Well, let's go through it.
All right, so there's 18 points. I'm not going to go through all of them.
But our research,
has
shown that this is a parody, and there was no article with this title, no magazine even called Housekeeping Monthly, right? So it's a parody.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Okay. So, and I didn't know that when it was circulating originally. I think everybody figured it was real.
Yeah, I mean, when you first look at it.
Because we all have this view of the 1950s through what we've seen on TV and which reading books and, that kind of thing.
Well, that's the other thing is when I researched into whether it was a parody, we found out, yes, it is. And if you took a look at the actual advice during the 1950s and so on, that it turns out that a lot of what's been portrayed about marriages back during that time has been a parody.
Yeah.
For specific purposes.
Yeah.
But.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, there's 18 of them. I'm not reading all of them. Let's see. Have dinner ready. Plan ahead, even the night before, to have a delicious meal ready on time for his return. This is a way of letting him know that you have been thinking about him and are concerned about his needs. Most men are hungry when they get home, and the prospect of a good meal is part of the warm welcome needed. Now, I agree with this one. Well, I don't have a problem with that.
You were a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And because you were home taking care of the children,
yeah,
you were able to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't think any husband whose wife also has a job,
right,
would expect a meal on the table if they both get home at the same time or whatever. This is something. All of this is stuff you need to work out together as husband
Obviously.
and wife. Who's going to do what,
right,
and balance everything and so on, right? So go ahead.
Okay. Prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to rest so you'll be refreshed when he arrives. Touch up your makeup. Put a ribbon in your hair. Be fresh looking. He's just been with a lot of work-weary people. Now, how many times did you come home and find me with my makeup done in a dress?
I don't remember.
No, I
don't remember many.
No, because I was chasing.
Mainly because you had kids.
I was chasing children all day long.
This assumes you have no children, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess.
Or one.
I'm going to say this word as part of this sentence, but quoted. Please take it in context. It doesn't mean what you think it means. Be a little gay and a little more interesting for him. His boring day may need a lift, and one of your duties is to provide it. Now, when they use the word gay, they're not talking about what you think.
They're talking about be happy.
Happy. That's what gay used to mean, right? Clear away the clutter. Make one last trip through the main part of the house just before your husband arrives. Run a dust cloth over the tables. Now, I didn't do that because you didn't notice. Our house was a constant.
Need a dust cloth?
Our house was in a constant state of clutter. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to one of my daughters yesterday, and I told her, as we were talking about keeping the house clean with little kids running around and stuff, and I said, no. I picked up the clutter, cleaned under it, and then put the clutter back because it was gonna go back anyway, and that was not.
Kids.
I mean, again, this was something that we kind of mutually agreed on, that the house is going to be messy because we have children.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I never let things get gross and moldy and food everywhere, and I didn't let things get that bad. Right?
No, you kept it clean.
Yeah.
But the kids' stuff was around.
Oh, yeah,
toys
everywhere.
Or whatever.
Everywhere.
No big deal.
Let's see. Oh, this is a good one because I think when you looked it up on AI, it made a point about this one. Mm-hmm. During the cooler months of the year, you should prepare and light a fire for him to unwind. Your husband will feel he has reached a haven of rest and order. So, yeah, and when we looked it up on AI, they were like, yeah, don't light a fire. That's probably not a good idea.
Well, in the 50s, most of the time,
houses didn't have fireplaces.
It was saying most houses didn't have fireplaces. Yeah. So that's why this is a parody and a fake article. But
right.
But I think the sentiment is there in the sense that you, if you're a stay-at-home
right
mom or a stay-at-home housewife,
right.
that you can make the home, and you should anyway, make the home a peaceful place, a place that you can come and relax.
Yeah.
Right. If you're just creating drama, then you probably have daddy issues or something that you're dealing with that you need to fix.
Yeah.
Or some other kind of past, like you dated a bunch of volatile boyfriends way back, and you're addicted to the chaos, and you need to get past that and realize that a good man wants peace.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I get that. Let's see. Minimize all noise. Boy, that never happened. Because when you got home, all 6 kids just descended on you, and it was chaos there for a good 10 minutes after you got home every night. Yeah. And then we would have dinner, and then I would punch my time clock. I don't know how else to say it.
I took over the kids.
You did.
And
you would play with them, read to them, and you would put them to bed.
Put them to bed.
Yeah.
Because you had been with them all day, so I wanted you to have time to relax.
Right. See, that was our agreement. That was how we worked.
But I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, if your wife stays home and you're a hhusband, well, this is husband duty, I guess. But take that immediate load off your wife. And we're not talking about like right as soon as you get home, but the evening. I mean, you need to spend time with your children.
Yeah.
Because you've been gone all day. You're working, so.
Right.
Do that. Take advantage of that.
Yeah.
That's absolutely necessary.
Some of our kids' best memories are you reading to them at night.
Yeah.
I
remember reading.
Yeah.
And then falling asleep while reading.
Okay. Let's see. I want to go to a funny one here.
Yep.
Don't complain if he's late for dinner or even if he stays out all night. Count this as minor compared to what he might have gone through at work. Nah.
Well, a little late is one thing, but stays out all night. I even laughed at that one. I was like, okay, what are you doing? I mean, what kind of job do you have that would require you to... I mean, I suppose they're thinking, he's staying at the bar, which is dumb.
Yeah.
Because if you're at the bar, you're just avoiding coming home.
Yes.
You got to fix the problems that make you want
to
avoid to come home. But I laughed pretty hard at that one earlier.
Oh, make him comfortable. Have him lean back in a comfortable chair or lie down in the bedroom. Have a cool or a warm drink ready for him. Arrange his pillow and offer to take off his shoes. Speak in a low, soothing, and pleasant voice. He's sitting here holding his head like, oh, I can't. God, wow, this is.
I just cannot. I don't know. I can't speak for all men, obviously, but probably most men that they wouldn't want that.
Right.
I just don't see that happening at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I even look at movies and shows or whatever from that depict the 50s.
Yeah.
Where the dad comes home and mom's getting dinner out on the table and the dad sits down with a newspaper. And doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I just don't see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't see that. You know, maybe there's some guys out there who just think they should be waited on like their wife is, you know, the lowest servant and they're the king, but most guys aren't like that.
We used to know a couple actually, and he would come home from work because he would get up at like 4 a.m.
Okay.
to go to work. And when he would come home, he would go back in the bedroom, take a shower, and then lay down and take a nap before he interacted with anybody. And she was like, this is what we do.
But that was
because
him.
because he was awake at 4 a.m. to go to work.
That was a special circumstance.
Yeah.
I get that.
No, I mean, but it doesn't even have to be a special circumstance. Sometimes that's just the way a household works.
And it could, I suppose. But at 4 a.m, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
At 6 or 7, you know, what are you doing, man? Yeah, I don't see that for most men. Or, you know, if you work the night shift and then you get home and you need to take a nap before you interact with everybody during the day because everybody else is up.
Yeah.
Sure, I can see that too.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to work it out. Like you said, you got to work it out. You mentioned that I Love Lucy show.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah. There was an episode where she thought that the thing to do was to do this kind of thing and like wait on him hand and foot and, you know, have him come in the house and sit down and take his shoes off and just listen to him. And he got so disgusted with it that he actually started to act kind of over the top, like, do this for me and do that for me.
Yeah.
And she finally just lost it. She just had a temper tantrum, was like, I don't have to do anything you say. What is this? And he went, there's my wife. That's the wife I married. That's the one I want. Don't do this stuff for me.
Yeah.
Where did this come from? Okay, so, this is good too. Don't ask him questions about his actions or question his judgment or integrity. Remember, he is the master of the house, and as such will always exercise his will with fairness and truthfulness. You have no right to question him. That right there should have made you think, should have let you know that this is fake. Right there.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the 1950s?
No, come on.
I mean, I've been doing research, so I can see that, yes,
Right.
This should have flagged it as fake to me.
Yeah.
But I
A
think
good wife knows her place. That's the last one. I'm gonna
But
put
I
this thing
think
aside.
Hollywood has presented it such that we all read that and say, yeah, that's what they used to
Yeah,
think in the 1950s.
it's ridiculous.
You know, it's actually not true.
Yeah.
I mean, really, a husband wants his wife as a sounding board. There's supposed to be a partnership. It's partners of equals.
Yeah.
A partnership of equals, not master and slave or master and servant or anything like that. You know, yes, we think, you know, men should be leaders.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely should be.
Yeah.
But you got to understand what a good leader is not this tyrant or a master
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. Right. So, I'll often take Abby's thoughts and opinions into account much more than my own because of her wisdom and desires and how she sees things. I mean, women see things differently, so we need to take advantage of that.
Right.
In a sense, as a resource, but also, you know, like we said, we're partners, and we've talked about this before, where, you know, there have been very few times when I've had to make a decision that goes against what Abby might say, but it might be, you know, something that I know about that she doesn't, like where our finances stand or something like that, because that's my job.
Yeah.
But in general, we try to come to agreement on things.
Yeah.
And I see her input as crucial, vital. So, this whole master of the house, don't question him, don't say anything, just be quiet. None of that. Now, you don't need to be obnoxious, just like a man doesn't need to be a jerk.
Yeah.
Again, you're partners. So, anyway, I thought that was funny. Too.
Yeah. So yes, we found out that whole thing is parody. It does sound an awful lot like that, like you said, the 1950s, like shows and books and the entertainment and the way they were portraying it, right? But okay, all of that aside now, because what we want to discuss here is that we both do have duties in our relationship. And my duties as a wife and as a woman, I need to be performing those in order to keep our relationship what do you say? Growing. Yeah. Just cohesive. That's the word I'm looking for. So what are a woman's duties? Because there's far too much propaganda out there right now that says women don't have any. And we do. So your duties are to be pleasant, for the most part, to be a place of peace that your husband can come to keep your home a more or less peaceful place. Ours was more or less peaceful. Given the number of children we had,
peaceful.
But I maintain
versus rambunctious.
Yeah, sure.
Children are rambunctious, and they're loud and all that.
Yeah.
But peaceful means, from a husband's perspective, I think, means that you're not picking fights. You're trying to create drama for the sake of drama.
Right.
Hinting, and then you get mad because I don't get your hints or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you communicate directly your needs and I don't get it, then grab me by the face and say, "Look at me," and then tell me what you need.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm okay with that.
Right.
Communication
is the duty is one of our duties to each other, but it is the duty of a wife to communicate with her husband.
And she needs to communicate in a way that the husband will understand.
Yeah.
I think both men and women can understand direct communication.
Right.
And women tend to hint around or expect. And I don't know if it's innate or just how women have been taught in today's culture.
I think it's more what they've been taught, to be honest.
Where, men are supposed to be able to read your mind, get your hints, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's not true.
It's nonsense.
Just tell me what you
nonsense.
Need, right?
Well, this is why I said that communication is one of our duties. It is.
But, okay, so I don't know where I'm going. So
okay, yeah. So, one of our duties, so I'm supposed to encourage your growth.
Sure.
Encourage you to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. Encourage your personal growth. Kind of keep you accountable, ask you questions.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. That is the duty of a wife, right?
Yeah.
I know when your doctor's appointments are. I know what your blood work looks like, and I know, what your diet looks like.
Sure.
Right. So because I know that you struggle with the sweet tooth.
Yeah. And
we both can kind of lean towards that kind of pre-diabetic if we're not careful. Then it's up to me to have the kind of food in the house that's not going to perpetuate that.
Yeah.
That's one of my duties, right?
And you've been doing that. I mean, you'll kind of point things out or such, but then when I decide, I'm going to do this, like having fries or something like that, and you're not naggy, right? Because as soon as you nag, what does a husband do?
Well, the reason I'm not naggy is because I know what you've eaten the rest of the week.
Yeah. So it's this is date night. I'm going to have some fries.
Yeah.
it's not a, you've got to live perfectly, because, diets where, and some people have to do it, but diets where
there's too much restriction.
Just too much restriction. It's just so difficult to keep to them.
It is.
Right?
It is. So, but
anyway.
but I also, we discuss what our exercise routine looks like almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, we talk about what we did.
All 5 days,
right?
Right? Like if I come home and your weighted vest is gone,
yeah,
I know that you're out doing a ruck.
Right.
Right. And you will generally ask me what I did, so you're making sure I don't hurt myself.
Absolutely.
Because I'll overextend myself and get hurt, and you're aware of that.
I'm up to 28 pounds on my vest.
So, we did a whole podcast on submission and what it looks like.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I discussed then, submission is this, it's become a dirty word.
Yeah, it has.
And it shouldn't be.
No, we submit to different people all
okay,
the time,
so,
right?
well, yes, there is that. Like, if you're a woman and you're going out to work, guess what? You're submitting to somebody. And you're submitting to somebody who doesn't love you or have your best interest at heart at all.
Right.
You really are. So, and it took me about 5 years into our marriage. I kind of resisted the whole thing for a while, the submission thing. Mm-hmm. I didn't have it modeled for me, except for Sherry, and I didn't live with her long enough to have it, like,
yeah,
like she really preached it to me, like, submission, this is important, but I just didn't buy it, I guess. And then about 5 years in, I was so frustrated, and I finally gave in, and I was like, this is so much easier now. Like, my life just became so much easier because there's all these decisions and pressure that I was putting on myself, and I didn't have to be doing that.
Yeah.
So now it's like, well, those are actually his decisions. They're not mine. I shouldn't be making these decisions. Yeah. Right? And as soon as I, put it on your shoulders because I knew you could handle it, I was like, now I can just focus on being a mom.
Yeah.
And focus on, keeping my house in order and doing all of the stay-at-home mom things.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I felt like it was just too much.
Well, it's funny that,
and I think most women struggle with that because they consider submission to be a dirty word. And they don't trust their husbands enough.
Well, there's the problem.
Yes, to make good decisions. He'll do it the wrong way.
Yeah, but now, we've talked about this. Like, it's not necessarily wrong. It's just it might be different than what you said.
Yeah,
but it's not wrong.
Right.
And the thing is, it seems like you're giving up autonomy, but you're not. Right? Your husband should take into account your thoughts and opinions.
Right.
And he might say, well, that's fine, but no, this is the way we'll do it. And that's okay. Right? Or whatever. But yeah, I mean, men, forget about this. Men and women are the same thing.
It's not. That's a lie.
Equal.
Yeah.
In dignity and value and all of those really important things. But we're not the same. And men are designed for leadership.
They are.
And women are designed for social and community.
Yeah.
And, we lean into each other's territory. We've talked about that before, and that's fine. No big deal. But when it comes down to it, that's just the way we are. And, you can come up with a few examples of, great female leaders and terrible male leaders, right?
Sure.
Of course. But that does, there are reasons for that. But in general,
right,
men tend to be better, I don't want to say better, more designed for, more fitted out for leadership.
And it's also about bearing that burden.
And it's a burden.
It is. And men are actually wired to take that, to carry that you know, and you're supposed to help them, but you're not supposed to take it on yourself, because women, we carry enough burdens ourselves, you know, with managing the household and having children and raising them and doing all those things. That's a hard job.
Yeah.
Right. So you shouldn't be taking on the extra burden of trying to lead your household too. Yeah. Right.
I think this.
We're not wired for it.
I was listening to something today, and I was talking about, and that whole. This just reminds me, so I'm going to throw it in here.
Okay.
The whole. Women carry the emotional labor, or do the emotional labor, and it's like, okay, maybe some people think that's just a made-up term.
I think it is.
I don't know. I mean, even if it isn't a made-up term, even if there is emotional labor, right? I also heard this counterpoint that says, well, men carry a mental load.
Yes.
For their household, and since they're supposed to be providers, they're business, right? So they have this mental load too. So if you want to do tit for tat, we still both have this thing that we carry around,
right? And
you're talking about, you know, as a husband, when I make decisions, like, you know, it's taken me time to learn to just decide. Right? It's not that hard for me to decide. I can decide anything.
Yeah.
Right? I usually try to, it's like, well, what's going to make you happy? And I need to learn to just decide. Right? I know what you like and don't like, so I can decide without having to consult you.
Right.
And, you know, if you really think something's a bad idea, you know, you can say something.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I'm going to decide and it'll be fine. Right? And that takes that burden off you because it's supposed to be mine. And, you know, when you were raising your children, I mean, you made a ton of decisions.
Yeah.
Related to the children that I didn't have to think about.
Right.
Right? So, anyway. We got off. But go
we
ahead.
did. Okay. So I kind of skipped ahead here. Because this is something we've talked about before. I went back and listened to it this morning, not because I like listening to the sound of my own voice. I actually don't, but I just wanted to. It's like, did we already discuss this? And we did an entire podcast on gratitude and how it affects your relationships and your marriage and, you know, your relationships with your kids and outside the home and everything. But I also wanted to loop that in as well. Gratitude is crucial. It's crucial to human beings. Sure. It's crucial to a good marriage, good relationships. And you know, what I discussed during that podcast was how it starts with just little things, right? And when we were having this discussion, we were actually going to do another gratitude podcast, and then I listened to it and I was like, we kind of already
covered it.
We covered it. But, you know, just a kind of a quick review. You know, if you go back and listen to our stories or whatever, I struggled with a lot of stuff. And at some point, I started just thanking you for little things.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it grew from there, right? And what I discovered is when you start thanking your husband, and yes, this is a duty, for little things, you will start to notice other things that he does. Mm-hmm. You know, it will blossom, and it's like, what do we call it? The red car theory.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
If I say to you, go out and look for red cars, that's all you're going to see.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Like, you know, my daughter just had a baby a month ago, and, you know, she was like, oh, everybody's pregnant. No. You're pregnant, and because you're pregnant, you're noticing all the other people around you who are pregnant. That's what it is. So it's not that everybody's pregnant. But that is how gratitude works.
Yeah.
And it's this whole shift from, I wrote it down. I deserve this to, I am so thankful I have this.
Yeah.
And that is revolutionary. It really changes your entire perspective on the world around you. You know, and thank you is something that I say pretty frequently, not just at home, but in other places too.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you express it to your husband, and I think I said this, I made a comment on social media last week or whatever, an appreciated man will move mountains for you.
I think that's true. From a man's perspective, it has to do with, I know my wife likes me and appreciates me, right? When she says thank you.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, gratitude crowds out dissatisfaction.
Yeah, it does.
Entitlement.
Yeah.
Things like that. It crowds that out, and you appreciate someone. When you appreciate what they do, it crowds out this temptation to nag them or to complain or criticize, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I think that's a big motivator for guys. But I mean, it goes both ways. But for guys, it's like, if we know our wives like us and appreciate us, we'll do more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when they say thank you for that, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
So I think you'll find it works that way in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny. I'm going to brag a little bit, but way back when I first started at work, and it was a few years in, but we were doing testing and stuff like this, and we would have to send out this status, and I just decided, I said, what would be good is, we were supposed to send a status whenever we ran a particular test, right? And I said, what would be good is, I'm going to say thank you. I'm just the guy sending the note, right? The email to the management and whoever else. And it was actually supposed to be the team, the whole team, right? And I said, I'm going to thank specifically the people who were doing the work.
Okay.
And it's funny, I look back before that, and nobody ever said thanks at the end of their emails. But today, people where I work still say thanks at the end of their emails.
Okay.
Now, we don't have to do all that thank you for this and that,
yeah.
Testing. But I think it just caught on, and I did it, and then some other people started doing it too.
Yeah.
And it's like, you wanted to give people credit.
Right. Yeah.
And it was, I don't want to say it's revolutionary, but I think it helped everybody see that, helped everybody see that they needed to appreciate the people who were doing the work. And
right.
Those people were motivated to do better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we definitely saw that.
Right.
So this happens in a marriage too. So you can be a wife who nitpicks and criticizes and kills her husband by 1,000 cuts.
Yes, that's
right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Which is what you will do. You will kill your marriage.
Yeah.
Or you can be grateful and find something to say thank you for.
And I have heard You know, there's these awful TikTok videos and stuff that go around, and there's these women who are like, why should I say thank you to him when he's just doing his part? I'm doing my part, he's doing his part. I don't think I owe him gratitude, or I don't think I should have to say thank you. Why should I do that? Yeah. Of course he's going to do that for me.
Yeah, but for how long?
Yes.
And a man who does his duty for you, if he doesn't feel appreciated for doing that, will slowly stop.
Yeah, he will.
Right? I didn't have to thank those people at work. It was their job.
Yeah.
They were getting paid for it.
Right.
Right? But I think it helped them know that they were recognized. So anyway, we talked about gratitude, and you said, I don't know if you wanted to add, maybe you don't have to add anymore, but you were talking about your changeover.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't even something that I suddenly recognized when you started doing it. I think it helped you more than me.
It did. It really did.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I look back and I appreciate it. And we both thank each other now for
everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Right? And we've talked about this. It's just this sense of gratitude crowds out the bad things.
And it's like it's such a simple thing.
It doesn't
it's such
cost
a simple
you anything.
No. And these people who just think that it costs too much just to say those two words or even that one word, thanks.
Yeah.
Come on. What kind of a life are you leading?
Yeah.
That you can't, just humble yourself a little bit and thank somebody for something they did for you instead of acting like you were entitled to it.
Exactly.
Because that's,
I think that's a good word. I think we in general feel entitled to things. And it's like, yeah, maybe you are, right? I mean, maybe you paid for it or you earned it or, whatever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you don't say thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Do you want the people who are giving you something, do you want them to feel good too? Because they're, if you thank them, they're more likely to do it again.
Yeah.
Just like we talked about in How to Train Your Dragon, that episode.
Yeah.
It's like part of it is just saying thank you.
Yeah.
And if you want to train somebody, to do something, and this is not like, I mean, husbands and wives train each other. We made that clear, right?
Yeah.
What do you need? And you say thank you, and I'm more likely to do it again. But if you criticize, you nitpick, you say you didn't do it right,
express gratitude at all,
or you're just quiet, I expect you to do that, then they're not going to be motivated. People are motivated by gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that was a long thing about gratitude, but
well, that's just because it's so important.
It is. It's a big thing, and I think. Oh yeah, and I may have mentioned it. I think a lot of marriages that are on the brink, right?
Yeah.
One spouse, just one, and it's funny. It's usually the wife. When the wife starts saying thank you and not criticizing, their marriage just turns around.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's amazing, I should say. The wife will come back to this counselor and say, I just started saying thank you, and all of a sudden, his whole attitude changed.
Yes.
And I think it has to do with how men are designed. Men are designed to need respect.
Mm-hmm.
And if you nitpick and criticize, then you're disrespecting them.
Yeah.
But if you show gratitude, you're showing respect. And wives want to be shown love. So it's like, he doesn't love me, right? Well, have you thanked him? Have you shown respect? And what do you know? As soon as you do that, he's more loving.
Yeah.
And yeah, husbands could Well, I don't want to get deep into that. There's a reason why it starts with wives, I think. And it's not because women are bad. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there's a reason it starts with wives. I'm not going to go into, maybe we could cover it some other time. But, it has to do with how men accept love and how women.
I think that was in the Gottman book, so we'll probably get to that.
The
way men and women both receive love and express love. Yeah. So I'm just going to add. So that was long-winded.
I'm long-winded sometimes.
Well, that's all right. So I'm just going to throw in this last one. I mean, it is our duty as a Christian wife to be praying for your husband. Okay, so 2 more. That one. Yeah. So we should be praying for our husbands, right? We should be praying for them to be wise leaders and good fathers and good husbands, and be praying for their job, be praying to protect them if they have if they're in a dangerous job or whatever. Yep. All of those things. That is a duty of a Christian wife. It is. The last one that I want to hit on, though, because too many women fall into this, is the commitment to your husband and to your marriage. And this has to do with more how women talk to each other. I've been in far too many situations where we're all talking about the kids and our home and everything, and somebody starts complaining. My husband this, my husband that, my husband doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. My husband is a man-child, and it spirals into this just complaining session, and unfortunately, women feed off of each other. So if one starts doing it, then somebody else is going to start doing it. And before you know it, you're in a gossip session about all of your husbands, and nothing good is being said at all. And it is imperative that we avoid this at all costs.
Yeah, we've said this previously.
We have. So it is
yep.
a commitment to your husband emotionally, spiritually. I'm just reading now. It says, guard your heart against temptation and nurture intimacy through trust, affection, and mutual care. So if you are in a group of women and this is going on and you're participating, even if your husband doesn't find out, you're still breaking his trust. Because gossip, that's what it is. It's gossip.
Well, it is gossip.
And gossip breaks trust. And it doesn't, you gossip your husband, your kids, your friends, whoever. I don't care. Gossip breaks trust.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And if you don't have trust in your marriage as a foundation, it's not going to go so well. Yeah. Things are not going to go very well. So that is also a wife's duty. You don't badmouth your husband in public ever. You just don't do it. If you have a problem with your husband, go home and talk to him.
Yeah.
If you together need to enlist someone else to help you, then do that. But if you go out with a group of women and you're in a graping session about all of your husbands, it spoils your mindset.
Yeah. I think I had a couple of points, but that one, women are more social than men. So
yes.
They tend to validate one another's feelings.
Right.
And so if you badmouth your husband, the women are going to validate that, as opposed to saying, they're not going to say, you shouldn't be talking bad about your husband.
Yeah.
You should be talking to your husband.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to do that. They're going to say, yeah, my husband sucks too, and your husband sucks, and maybe you should divorce. That's what we're finding in real life.
Right.
And so, you don't want to do that. And like you said, when you say something, women talk about manifesting. Manifesting.
Yeah.
When you say something negative, it manifests in your mind this negative mindset toward your husband, and it grows.
Yeah.
And then you get the validation, and then you start to look at your husband as someone unworthy of you.
You start to see more negative things than positive. And then you don't even see the positive things anymore.
Positive things can be crowded out.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Which is why we talk about gratitude.
Yeah.
This is just the other side of gratitude.
Yeah.
This is a negative. Like, don't do this, but do the gratitude.
Right.
And then you won't, and you shouldn't be tempted, or don't give in to the temptation to badmouth, because that's ingratitude.
Yeah.
Right. Or being ungrateful.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, from a man's perspective, men don't go sit around a campfire and gripe about their wives. And they don't go into specifics. They might say, I'm having a little trouble and I need some advice.
Yeah.
But they are not going to badmouth their wives. They just don't do it. And it's not necessarily because they're better, right? It's just, we're not designed to do that.
Yeah.
Right? We might mess up in other ways, but that's not what, we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. And men aren't going to validate us or our feeling. I'm just feeling so bad, John. my wife is this and that, and it just makes me feel this way, blah, blah, blah. And John's not going to say, oh man, that's great, you should divorce her, get rid of that battle axe, I mean, men don't do that.
No.
So I think it's funny, but so yeah, I mean, gratitude, and then don't badmouth. I agree, absolutely.
Yeah. So
we haven't had a chance to talk about men, but we should push that off.
Yes, we will actually do a separate, because we are going to talk about men's duties as well.
Well, we've missed a few duties of wives.
Okay.
All right. I mean, well, we talked about loyalty.
Yes.
And I'm not just loyalty in how you talk, but loyalty in your purity.
Right.
Right. I think, let's speak, women, and we're going to get to husbands, okay? But women can tend to dance around a subject, and their husband doesn't get it, so they get unhappy, and then they start looking for emotional validation from somewhere else. And there's always some guy floating around, especially if the woman works outside the home.
Right.
She's going to find some guy who's happy to listen to her bitch about her husband. That's exactly what I mean, too. And he'll validate her feelings, and he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he knows he's drawing her in.
Yeah.
And then she'll end up having this emotional affair, and then maybe eventually a physical affair. And we're seeing that stuff in real life all the time.
Sure.
And that destroys marriages.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I don't know where I was going with that. Shoot.
Well, just about, and you were talking about how one of our duties as a wife is to be loyal. Loyal.
Right. So if you're loyal to your husband, you're not going to go complain about Jake at the office, who pays attention to you and makes you feel heard and seen, right? It's like you should be talking to your husband so that he can see you and hear you. Yeah. And if he's not seeing you and hearing you, then you grab him by the face and speak to him directly and say, I'm not being seen or heard. You need to listen. And we'll get it if you do that. But if you dance around and not say what you mean and just give us hints and expect us to read your minds, it's not going to happen. Right? And then you'll end up destroying your marriage.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, men have a duty to be loyal too. We'll get to that. But that's what loyalty is.
Right.
Right? And purity. The other duty is a lot of sex.
Okay, yeah.
And nobody talks about that. even Christians don't talk about that. It's like this is one of the main things for men is be available for sex. And we've actually talked about it episode or two ago where yes, it is your duty, sex, whatever.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, it might feel like a duty. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this because I know he needs it and I love him.
Right.
I love my husband, so I'm going to do this. And then next thing you know, you're in bed and you're enjoying it too.
Yes.
So yeah, it happens that way. And I think too many women just say, forget it. I'm married. I don't need to provide sex anymore. And, sex is how men feel love. One way that men feel love.
Right.
And it's a big deal. So that's a duty too.
Yeah, I agree.
Any others? Did I miss anything?
I don't think you did.
All right. Because I just wanted to make sure those got added.
Yeah.
I think men, I kind of repeating, but, if you're disloyal to your husband and you do something, like if you talk bad about, not even cheating, I think the result becomes the same. But if you are bad-mouthing your husband, you are humiliating him to other people. And he'll see that as very disrespectful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that will turn him off like a light.
Yeah.
It's like, what else are you saying? Can I even trust you anymore?
Yeah.
Right? Because you destroy trust. You mentioned it, right? And anyway, so I'm not going to go into infidelity. We've talked about that enough. But men very quickly just get turned off and shut down to their wives if that is happening. So women, you have a lot of power.
We do. We do.
Massive amounts of power.
I mean, there's all this feminist nonsense. Okay,
yeah.
But there's a lot of feminist nonsense out there about the power that women have, and that neglects the real power that we have.
Yeah.
In our homes, and in our marriages, and with our children, because we carry the babies in our bodies and we nurture them and we feed them and we're primarily raising them, right? If we're stay-at-home moms, right?
Sure. And you should be, but that's our anyway, keep going.
So because of that, we have a lot more power than, say, the feminists would give us credit for.
I think feminists say, well, we're empowered when we go and have our own job and we have our own money, right?
Yeah.
That's it's a materialistic viewpoint.
Yeah, it is.
When your husband is happy to provide.
Yeah.
Right? And you think you have power just because you have a job? I mean, you have massive amounts of power in raising the next generation and determining how society goes.
Yeah.
Right? Just by raising your own children.
Right.
As opposed to dumping them off at a government school and going to a job where you're just a cog in the wheel, right?
I mean, men are
we're happy to be the cog, right? We can do it.
Yeah.
We're happy to do that.
Yeah.
Because we know that we're providing.
Right.
It's like, this is my, I've thought about it, and it's like I never wanted to be the CEO, or some high level of management or whatever. And it's like I could have done that.
You've had opportunities for sure.
And I certainly could have done that. But if I had done it, not only would I have destroyed our marriage by being gone so much, but it just would have been materialism and focusing on the wrong things. And I'm happy to look back and say, yeah, this job has its ups and downs. But guess what? Every job has its ups and downs. I mean, even if you're a CEO or you're like you own your own business. I mean, all of it has its ups and downs, right? So you're not getting anything better, right? So just I do my job, and I make a good wage, and I bring it home, and I provide, and I'm happy to provide for Abby to have raised our children,
right,
and to do what she's doing now, like training old ladies not to be frail. I mean, that's a big thing, right? And I can sit there and say, "Oh, I'm just a cog in the wheel." It's like, yeah, maybe, right? But I see mission in my work,
mm-hmm.
right? I think it's a lot of it's mindset. I'm not going to go into men's work, but you can sit there and say, "Oh, I'm just a cog." It's like, yeah, I know they could replace me, but at the same time, I see mission in my work, and I'm happy to do it,
mm-hmm.
and then I'm happy to provide. Right. So
no. So here's what you. So we're gonna wrap this up.
Wrap it
up. But
baby.
So no, this is what you're hearing. This is what you're hearing. You're hearing from a man who has been, he's had gratitude expressed to him for years.
Yes.
Which is why he is talking the way that he is. This is what you're hearing. This is what's on the other end of years of cultivating this.
Tearing up.
So, that was not my goal. But I'm just saying, the reason you are speaking with such confidence and, you're expressing things so strongly is because we've cultivated this kind of relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think marriages in general, I mean, we're at 36 years.
Yeah.
So many people just give up after 5 to 7 years because they don't understand that, marriages take work, and the things that we've talked about, you have to do them, and there's great fun and great enjoyment in it while you're doing the hard work. But then as you keep going, it gets better and better. And,
right.
And, we're looking forward to another 30 years.
I hope so.
I don't know what God has for us, but that's what we're looking forward to. And we're looking at our lives now, our marriage now.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
It is.
Well, you've got this mission now.
Yeah.
Now that the kids are grown, you've got the grandchildren. You've got the old ladies.
Quit calling them that.
The ladies at the gym.
Yeah.
Who have benefited so much from your coaching, and the friendships that we both have there.
Yeah.
And so on. So, and that's not even to speak of the fact that, we go to church and we're trying to teach people about marriage.
Right.
Given our experience.
Yeah.
And all that. So, yeah, I'm passionate about our marriage and how great it is.
And I'm glad you are.
Okay, baby.
Okay.
Wrap it up.
All right. So, we're going to wrap this one up.
We'll talk about men's duty.
We will do that one
next time, and then we'll get into the Gottman stuff.
Yes. So it'll probably be a couple of weeks before we get to another one here because we've got some stuff to do. And then we will probably be covering the Gottman stuff over the course of the summer. Over the course of the summer. So anyway, we hope you have a great evening, and it is Mother's Day this weekend, so happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Thank you for doing your duty. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much.
This has been Marriage on the Half Shell, Raw and Exposed.